Why is it so hard to become who we want to be? Think about it. Most of us have some sort of an idea of the person we want to become. Maybe you want to be someone who reads more, eats healthier, exercises regularly, creates art, learns new skills, whatever. You know exactly what habits would get you there, or at least a pretty darn good idea. So why don't we just do them? Why do we keep failing at the same things over and over again? Why does motivation last about 3 days before we're right back where we started? Welcome back, y'all. Today, I want to talk about something that completely changed how I approached building habits and becoming the person I want to be. And that is the power of engineering your environment. If you've read Atomic Habits, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's what I've noticed. So many people today have goals or very goal-oriented. They have a vision for who they want to be. They know what habits they need to build. But there is so much noise in our modern world. We all know what I'm talking about. You sit down to work on something meaningful, and then your phone buzzes. You check it real quick, that turns into 15 minutes of scrolling. Someone texts you, you see a news notification. You remember you need to check something. Before you know it, an hour has passed and you haven't done the thing you actually wanted to do. You were distracted by the noise. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you don't care. It's that you're fighting against an environment that is actively pulling you away from your goals and designed to distract you. And here's the thing, willpower, it's overrated. Like seriously, it's overrated. Everyone talks about discipline and motivation pushing through. And sure, those things matter. I talk about them, I live them, they are important, but relying purely on willpower is exhausting. It's like trying to swim upstream every single day, and eventually you're just gonna get tired. What if, instead of constantly fighting against your environment, you could design your environment to work for you? What if you could make the quote unquote right choice the default choice? That's what engineering your environment is all about. It's about setting up your physical space in a way that naturally guides you towards the habits that you want to build and the person you want to become. Because here's the reality. Your environment is constantly shaping you whether you are aware of it or not. The question is, are you intentionally designing it or are you just letting it happen to you? Let me explain what I mean by engineering your environment exactly. So engineering your environment is thinking about how every choice you make throughout the day requires a certain amount of mental energy. Should you work out and watch TV or watch TV? Should you read or should you scroll your phone? Should you cook or should you order takeout, right? But when the desired choice and the misaligned choice are equally easy to make, you're relying entirely on willpower to pick the desired choice. And some days willpower wins, but a lot of days it doesn't. And again, that's not because you're lazy. It's just because that's how human nature works. But what if you could design your environment so that the desired choice becomes the obvious choice, the easy choice, the default choice? That's the power of engineering your environment. That's what I'm talking about. You're not making yourself perfect. You're not guaranteeing you'll never miss a workout or never waste time, but you're tilting the playing field in your favor. You're reducing the cognitive lift for good habits and increasing the lift for bad ones. You're making the path that you want to walk literally the only path you see. We all know the saying, out of sight, out of mind. It's so true. Quick side note, as I've started making these videos and doing a lot of reflecting, I've noticed that the most basic of sayings we all hear, they really are facts. But okay, back to it. Let's say you want to start drawing, but your sketchbook is buried in a drawer somewhere. You're gonna forget about it. You'll get home from work, feel tired, see the couch, see your TV, and that's what you'll do, most likely. But if that sketchbook is sitting on your coffee table, if it's the first thing you see when you walk in, suddenly it's a lot easier to remember that you wanted to draw in the first place. It's a lot easier to find the motivation to pick it up. That's engineering your environment to your benefit. It's not magic. It's just being intentional about what you see versus what you don't see, about being intentional with what you interact with and what your default options are. So I've talked about it, but let me give you some examples from my own life because this stuff really does work. So a core part of who I want to be is centered around knowledge and growth. I want to be someone who's constantly learning, who's knowledgeable about many things. And one of my primary ways of chasing that is through books. So here's what I did. I filled my room with books. And I mean filled it. Literally, I have my Kindle right here. I have this book. I have this book, right? But all of my windowsills are covered in books. My bedside table, as I just said, is stacked with books. My desk has books on it. Everywhere I look in my room, I see books. Every time I sit down, there's a book right next to my hand. Why? Because by having books be a core part of my environment, I get a constant reminder of the person I want to be. And you know what? I end up reading a ton. Now imagine if instead of books, my room had a TV and an Xbox. What do you think would happen? It'd be a pretty safe bet to assume I wouldn't read as much. Not because I suddenly hate reading or that I'm lazy, but because my environment would be guiding me towards gaming and TV and Xbox instead of reading. Same person, same goals, completely different outcomes, all because of my environment. Here's another example for you, probably a more default one you've heard. So I want to be healthy throughout my life, and the way I choose to exercise is through running. But here's the thing, as we all know, running is hard, especially when it's cold or you're tired or you just don't feel like it, right? So it's really easy to convince yourself not to go on a run. Your bed is warm, you're comfortable, you can always do it later, you can always do it tomorrow, right? So what do I do to avoid that? I leave my running shoes directly in front of my bedroom door. Not in the closet. Well, I live in New York, so I don't even have a closet, but not by the door, but in front of the door. So every morning when I wake up, I turn off my alarm, or I get up to go to the bathroom, I literally walk over my shoes. And on those mornings where I wake up without motivation, those mornings where I'm trying to convince myself to skip running, I can't. Because I'm standing there looking at my shoes and they're right there. Because I see my shoes, for me to skip running, I would have to intentionally give up on my goal that day, which is actually pretty hard to do. You'd probably be surprised. That one small change in my environment has reduced the times I skip running to close to zero. Not because I all of a sudden became more disciplined, but because I made it harder to say no than to say yes. Now, I always want to be real with you. Like everything, engineering your environment isn't a magic bullet, it's not a sure thing, and it doesn't always work the first time, or the second, or the third. So let me tell you about a time that I swung and missed with engineering my environment. During my senior year of college, I wanted to get better at setting and tracking goals. Goal setting has weirdly never came naturally to me, and I wanted to be more intentional about the life I was building, more focused on what I was actually working towards. So I bought a whiteboard, hung it on the wall next to my closet, wrote down 3 monthly and 3 yearly goals. I felt great about it. I'd engineered my environment, right? The goals were there, they were visible, remind me of what I wanted to accomplish. But flash forward a few months, I realized I hadn't even thought about those goals. I'd walk past that whiteboard every single day, not even register it. I hadn't made any notable progress on any of the goals. So what went wrong? The problem was that the way I engineered my environment was passive. Just having the goals hanging on my wall didn't force me to engage with them. It didn't change my habits. It was like wallpaper, always there, but never really seen. So I learned from that failure, and I changed the structure entirely to go from passive to active. So instead of a whiteboard on the wall, I started leaving a notebook on my desk, right near my bed. So every morning and every night, I see it sitting there. And when it's sitting there, looking out of place, someone who's very organized, kind of flagged my mental node as a reminder to pick it up and write. So I changed it again from being a passive hanging on the wall to being an obtrusive notebook on my desk and actively making me engage with it. So from writing goals once a year to engaging with them daily, from something that blended into the background to something that demanded my attention. And that made all of the difference. So the lesson here is that engineering your environment requires iteration. Your first attempt might not work. That's okay. Pay attention to what's working, what's catching your attention, what isn't, and then tweak it, adjust it, try something different. That's all what engineering is about. So here's what I want you to internalize, really, really internalize. In today's world, with all the noise and distractions and things competing for your attention, you need to engineer your environment more so than ever. You cannot just rely on willpower. You can't just hope that you'll make the right choices. The world is literally designed to distract you, to pull you away from your goals, to keep you comfortable and passive. So if you want to build habits and grow to be the person that you aspire to be, you have to be intentional about your environment. You have to design your space in a way that makes your goals and your growth unavoidable. And here's the beautiful part. When you do this right, you're not just making it easier to do the right thing. You're fundamentally changing your default reality. You're creating a version of your life where the person you want to be is staring right back at you every single day. You're tweaking your default settings to be more aligned with your goals. And over time, those small environmental changes, they compound, they add up. They shape you in ways that you don't even realize until you look back and see how far you've come. It becomes default. So here's what I want you to do. Think about one goal or character trait that you want to develop. Just one. Maybe you want to be more creative. Maybe you want to be more organized. Maybe you want to learn something new. Maybe you want to be someone who creates instead of just consumes, right? There's all these things that we all want to be. But you have that one thing. Got it? Good. Now, identify one change you can make to your environment that would gear you towards the goal or character trait that you just identified. One thing you can do this week to tilt that playing field in your favor. Maybe you will put your guitar on a stand in your living room instead of its case in your closet. Maybe you want to drink more water, so you're going to put a water bottle right on your desk. Maybe you do the classic delete social media apps from your phone, even though that's always iffy on its effectiveness. And maybe you organize and declutter your room. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be some massive overhaul. Just one small change that makes the desired choice a little bit easier and that misaligned choice a little bit harder. Then pay attention. After a week or two, notice what's working and what isn't. Is that guitar getting played? Or is it just becoming part of the furniture like my whiteboard did? If it's working, great. Keep it up and add another environmental change. If it's not working, no worries. Tweak it. Try something different. Make it more obtrusive. Make it stand out more. Make it harder to ignore. Iterate, adjust, experiment. Keep tweaking your environment until the choice you want to make becomes your default choice. Stop fighting against your surroundings. Stop relying on willpower alone. Start engineering your space to work for you instead of against you. And use it to fuel your willpower and your motivation. Make your goals unavoidable. Make the desired choice the easy choice. Make your environment a reflection of who you want to become. That's all I got for today. Let me know in the comments what environmental change you're going to make this week. I'm always curious to hear how other people approach this. And if you're new here, subscribe because I post videos like this every week on Wednesdays where I share lessons or reflections as I'm trying to learn how to build a life that actually means something. Now go engineer your environment. I'll see you in the next one.